Hey everyone, it is time for another happy, healthy half hour. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, the whole purpose of these is to help bring a different perspective of how to look at our health and wellness in a way that we may not have previously considered. And today I am super hype to be interviewing the one, the only, Dr. Kelly Beischel. Hello, my dear friend. How are you?
So excited about today.
I know I am too. And like full disclosure here, Kelly and I have been talking for almost an hour and we're like, okay, we got to start recording. So
we could go on for another 4.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And this will be like definitely like first in a series of, because there's so much that we can share together. And Kelly, before we get started talking about living an unshackled life and so much goodness, can you just share a little bit about who you are and what you do? Because you say it better than I ever could. It's so beautiful.
Actually, I think you're just confused about what I do because I am too.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? We're just trying to do our best. Yes.
Right. The whole purpose of what I do is that I think there are lots of highly ambitious people, women and men, who have big dreams and that the world needs. Unfortunately, they're working themselves to death. And they work harder and harder and harder to please everyone and everything. And because that's what society has taught them to expect of themselves, right? And they're burning themselves out at a rate that's higher than ever before. And so they're going after their dreams, but they're burning themselves out and their life becomes a nightmare. And so I help people to get out of that nightmare. And I work with their body, mind, spirits, and emotions and try to clear some of that away, as well as working with them to release themselves from the shackles of life, the expectations society has put on our shoulders. And you should be doing this and you should do that. If you're a good mom, this is what that looks like. If you're a good wife, this is what that looks like. What are you doing wearing too short a skirt? And for men, my husband just revealed to me he feels shackled. I'm like, whoa. So we had this big conversation about it. And he's an older white man. But they also have the roles and the rules and all that on their shoulders. Like I should work for this amount of time and I should bring home this kind of salary and I should live in this kind of house and all of those things. And what it's doing, it's killing us. We are people pleasing ourselves to death. Oh my God. And I'm here to stop that.
Oh my God. Like endless goosebumps as you're talking, because it is so true. And something that keeps on coming to mind for me recently is that we are the only ones we spend our whole entire lives with. And as we tend to subscribe to this, societal ideal that we have of like, you have to work more. And that's rewarded too at the end of the day, which is scary, right? You're rewarded with overtime. You're rewarded with good job. You hustled so hard. Good job. You worked 70 hours. All we are doing is rushing towards sickness and dying earlier. And when you think about it that way, it doesn't make any sense. And I think what's really hard, and I would love to get your thoughts on this too, Kelly, is making that transition, coming to that point where it's like, you know what, this actually doesn't make sense the way that we're doing things. And, Kelly, so just like talk about that. Like, what have you seen in your experience that like causes people to be like, I didn't realize that I was shackled, but I don't want to be like this anymore. Like, are you seeing trends in like ages or experiences that are just kind of like shaking people awake?
Well, the pandemic has it shaken all of us, a lot of us awake, right? Yeah. Shaken.
I like it.
Have shook.
Yes, I know. Like, what is that? I don't know the word.
Give her that PhD. Anyway, we've woken up. when we're not fatigued by the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I think, but it was pre-pandemic that I noticed in my clients. I've had a 30-year-old come to me about like, I need a goal. I need you to help me find a goal. Like it was out there somewhere, a life purpose. And she thought she wasn't enough because she didn't have this grand goal she's running after. And anyway, after we kind of untangled things, she was just thinking she had to have a goal because that's what you do. When you're 30, you should have a goal, you should have a life plan, and you should be and and we got down to it. I said, what do you want a goal for? She goes, because I think I'm supposed to have one. And so we untangled all of that, and her goal is to work reasonable amount of hours to provide for the adventures she's taking in life. And from that, she moved to, well, from Cincinnati, she was working in Indiana, but she moved from there to the next step in Reno because she knew that's the next step to working in Paris. And she's Mexican. And I mean, I'm not saying that as a politically incorrect thing. She is literally.
Yes, yes.
So she knew she needed to get to Reno, and that would get her to Paris because that was where she wants to be. She wants to do all the adventures in Europe. And she went, oh my gosh, that's freeing.
Yes.
She goes, but I'm not writing a book. I'm not, giving a TED talk. Do you want to? She goes, no. I said, don't. Right. And it woke me up to, oh, this whole shackle thing. Right.
Yeah.
But that's a way, like the shackles of what we think success looks like and all that thing. But also, it really began when our sons came out and they're gay, and then I've seen all of that, and as a family we've evolved,
Yeah.
and and they're living unshackled lives, right? They're not hiding from society anymore, and they're being who they are. And I look to them to be like, that's what that looks like. Huh,
Yes.
that's what thriving looks like, to be your own person. And even when the world's telling you all the things that are wrong with you.
I
Yeah.
Something that you just said there really struck me, Kelly. It's like to see people be truly themselves, like truly
Mhm.
unshackled. And even despite what we are being told what we should be, I mean, I think, would you say that that's like the first step in like how do you get closer to living an unshackled life? Because it's on many ways, I know we were talking about this before. I've been thinking a lot about it. I feel like I'm there, but there's still things that
Yeah.
are creeping up for me. The residues of the shackles, or maybe ways that now that I'm living a more unshackled life, like some of the deeper shackles are starting to make
Right.
themselves apparent. But like, how does one begin to just step into what it means to just truly like be themselves in a really beautiful, authentic, unshackled way?
Yeah. Um, you touched on a few things there, and being an amazing coach that you are, as
Oh,
you
thanks.
know as well as I do, that you're never really there, right? Because
Mm,
you have those lingering, dark, deeper shackles that are there that you think like you don't even know that they're shackling you.
yes.
Like you don't know it's a problem because you've been doing it for your whole life, right? Or you've been seeing it, or you've been saying it, or whatever. Our languaging shackles us. It's not just society, but it's the languaging, right? Like I
Mhm.
have to go to the grocery store instead of I get
Mm,
to go to the grocery store because I have freaking money to buy food. Not everyone does, right? And so
yeah.
you shackle yourselves into like drudgery, right? And
Wow.
so that um, so it's those kind of things. But the I think when we take off some of the shackles, almost like some of the armor, as Brene Brown would say, and many others, um, is that then you can get to the deeper shackles.
Mm,
And um, and that I have had clients to come to me. I have what I call my coaching is thriving success. And I've had clients to come to me and said, I am so tired of surviving. I want to thrive. And
Oof.
and that's how they start. I had a gentleman, an executive client who came to me and like, I need to get my health back on track. I I have let myself go in the, like, his physical health. You could see, and about this, Lindsay, when you see a person who's very ruddy and their blood
Mhm.
pressure's high and he had puffy eyes, you could tell the stress. I mean, it just emanated from him, right?
Yeah.
And we started working on that. And about the third coaching call in, we did discovery calls, and it came to the self-compassion. He said, you keep bringing up that self-compassion and we keep talking about it. And your meditations are about that. But I do it intuitively. I feel the person and then I just
Mhm. Yeah.
meditate, and we do a meditation together on what's coming up for them. And he said, that's where I want to explore. That's where I want to go. I can get an accountability person to help me with my health, but I want to keep going there. And I asked him, where was, before our call started, where were you on self-compassion? He said, well, I didn't even know that that was a thing. So -5. I said, where are you today? And he said, a 5. And that was 3 calls in. And the self-compassion, the love for ourselves is the very first step.
Mm.
The myth, Lindsay, is that if we give ourselves compassion, and it's like people think of it as giving yourself grace. Oh, give yourself grace. And it's like, oh, high achievers say, well, I can't let myself off the hook, right? I won't keep achieving and I won't have discipline. And I won't, oh yeah, you have more than your fair share.
Yeah.
So you could just let some of that go. Um, but it's a huge myth that if we offer ourselves self-compassion, that the myth is that we'll be less productive, less energized,
Yes.
um, we'll be pansies, we'll be always giving in, well, on and on. And
Yes.
all of that is literally, the research shows us it's the opposite. Because when you love yourself and you give yourself self-compassion, and the self-compassion, the pillars from Kristen Neff are that you recognize that something's hard. Like, man, this is hard.
Mm.
And you say it, like, this is so freaking hard. This pandemic is
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
And I like to say it's hard for everyone except the people on Instagram with the perfect photos. They're doing great. But for the rest of us, it's hard. And then to recognize it and recognize that you're not alone in this.
Mm.
You're not alone in it. And you're right. It's hard because you're human. You don't get out of, I had to keep telling myself this a couple months ago when I was going through a really hard time. Like, you don't get out of this hard time just because. You get it because you're human. Just because I've got all the tools in the toolbox, it doesn't mean I get out of personal hardship. And then recognizing there's others and connecting with them, and not like in a, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh,
not
fuck
not like
yes. Fuck yes.
not like in a therapy session. That, venting with friends, it's helpful. But when it goes to the side of and bring everybody down, no. But talking to people about it, and then what would a very caring best friend say to you? What would
Mhm.
you say to a really good friend who is having a really hard time dealing with whatever? What would you say in a compassionate way? Now say that to yourself. And we hear this every day from lots of people, right? But are we really doing it? Are you really talking to yourself like that? Or are you beating yourself up?
Kelly,
I just went on and on.
oh my gosh, with so much gold, with so much gold. I love what you said about calling out the myth, because this is something that I have encountered too with clients, and also me personally too, like as I'm on
Mhm.
my journey with all of this, of like, what, it's so bizarre to me, of like that dichotomy between like, if you care for yourself, you suck. What? Like what? It doesn't make any it
Cares
doesn't
become
make
a
any
cuss
sense.
word.
Like it really has. And I also love what you just said too, because these are things that we see. Like we see people say, like, how would you talk to a best friend? And what I want to encourage from this conversation, because I'm trying to just like go deeper in my life,
Mm,
deeper understanding of
mhm,
myself. If something comes across my radar, it's like, well, what does this really look like? How do I actually do it? Instead of just like blowing past, like, oh yeah, I know I should be kind to myself, or I know I should do this, but like
mhm.
really pausing and considering to see if it's
Yes,
right for me.
it's key.
We have such great capacity to show up for others. And I really appreciate what you were saying about like taking time to just like pause and being like, okay, well, I've heard this now multiple times. It's not new information that we need to talk kind to ourselves. So why am I not talking kind to myself?
Mm,
Why am I not taking this advice seriously? Because I keep on hearing it different places, and getting curious around that for a second. And I would venture a guess that it probably does come back to this like weird thing that we have in our society of like, if you take care of yourself,
mhm,
then you can't take care of other people. But it is completely, and I've said this very directly to people,
mhm,
taking care of others before yourself is very selfish.
mm,
It's very selfish because you're putting yourself in a place
mhm,
where all these people that you deeply care about, that you're trying to do great by, that you're trying to show up for, like all of these things. And we could do it for a while before we
mhm,
totally burn out. But
mhm,
when we put ourselves of caring for everybody else first, eventually we get to a place where we're depleted, sick, and then all of these people
mhm.
now have to take care of us. So
Right,
it's the opposite. So
right.
like when we
Yes.
take care of ourselves for ourselves,
Mhm,
because us on our own, we don't have to have any other reason to take care of ourselves other than ourselves.
mhm, mhm.
Naturally, we'll be able to extend so much more to others and help them kind of dig through and begin to explore what it looks like to be unshackled in their personal life.
Right,
I love
right.
everything that you said so much.
I have 2 things that came up that I think are
Yes.
important for people to remember, and because it's an image I I live life in images.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. I love that. I'm a color person. I see
yeah,
colors all
yeah.
the time.
But, I heard this once and I could envision it, and I think, okay, if there's a couple things. Let me start with this. I work a lot with clients about their inner child because we
Mm,
still have that inner child within us. Our inner child's still there and still has needs and wants those needs met, right? And and it can come out in all different ways, some beautiful and some really ugly, right? And the stamping on the ground and whatever. But um, so think about that inner child. When you're talking to yourself, you're talking to your inner child. So you're talking to a child. If you saw someone on the street berating, it makes, dear, berating another person or a child with the words that you say to yourself,
mm,
if they were saying that to a child, would you be okay with that?
mm.
I wouldn't.
Dan,
That
like
in
how
and of
I,
itself stops me in my tracks.
yeah. And it's something that comes so natural. It comes so natural to,
Absolutely.
I think I mean, I don't know everyone, but I feel like that's something that comes so natural to, like, it's a common human experience.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I have been doing, it's interesting. And I love the way the universe works. Like when it, how you keep on seeing the same message over and over again.
Right, right.
So with my therapist, I'm doing that is as far as I've been able to unshackle myself. So now I'm really dealing with like some deep,
Mhm.
very, very deep stuff. And I've been avoiding it like the plague, which is usually not I'm
That's
usually
not your
like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable. Let's go do it.
right, right.
A little bit different, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I'm
Mhm,
working on this whole person health certification that's fascinating. It talks about emotional, mental, the things that you're talking about,
mhm.
spiritual and physical health. And I shit you not, it came up in that just the other day. And now you're mentioning it too, but it's true because, we don't know what we don't know at the end of the day. But
Mhm.
just as part of the human experience, we pick up things along the way. We pick up untruths, we pick up expectations, all of that. And what I'm really coming to find out is that it's not easy work,
Mhm.
but we can really let these things go. Like
Mhm.
there is nobody but ourselves, our
Mhm.
ego, some
Mhm.
other protective
Mhm.
entities inside of our body, what have you, that maybe tell us that we need to hold on to these things or is trying to protect something very deeply. But from an external perspective, there's nobody saying, talk to yourself that way. We're choosing to do it to ourselves. I don't
Right,
know. I just
right.
thought of that and I'm like, well, this is crazy.
You're
But
right.
yet
Well,
somebody
but we
tells
do.
us to go work, 80 hours or whatever. And we're like, all right, let's do it. It's
Right,
fine. I
right,
don't need to
right.
sleep.
That's our work, the 9 to 5 or 8 hours a day or whatever. That's all man-made, probably
Mm,
literally, but it's just generated somewhere. Well, we're working more than that. And I pulled them back, but it's still somebody said it, and now that's how we live. We're not getting
isn't that
curious. We're
weird?
not questioning things. Like, where did that come from? Could I do it differently?
Yeah.
I want to talk about loving yourself, but before I do that, I
Yes.
want, I I chose to watch my granddaughter for 2 months of the summer, for 3 days a week, and typically I watch. I mean, 2 days a week. Typically, I watch her one a week, and I was afraid it was going to affect my business, and I wasn't going to have time, and all these things,
I
right?
remember this. Yes.
And so I did it, and I picked up other times through the year when Caroline was sick or they needed a caregiver, and I was sick a lot of the year. And so I probably put in way less hours this past year in my business than I ever before, and I tripled my revenue. If I was better at doing my books, I would have been noticing that all the way along.
Yeah.
But I just did the books, and I went, "Holy shit! That whole hours thing is a myth. It's what you do during those hours."
Kelly, oh my gosh, I so love what you're saying right here too, because that to me, something that I've been trying to notice more and more instead of just like blow by or like, I like to downgrade things a lot. I like to be like, oh, somebody said something nice. Oh, that's kind of them, instead of being like, whoa, how cool. But I've been
Not the
taking some
ticker tape
time.
going through your mind.
I know, right? I've been taking time to notice things that are really going right when I do things, when I consciously choose to do something differently than the way that I've been taught to do them.
Mm.
And and when I take time to look back on my life and really reflect upon where I'm at now and how I got here, it all involved questioning, doing things a little bit differently, taking risks. Like when I really look at it,
Mhm.
the worst that has happened is that when I tried something new or like really took a risk with something, is that I learned that it wasn't for me. And
Mhm.
in that moment, it didn't necessarily feel like that. But
Mhm.
as I reflect back, I'm just like, why not?
Mhm.
Why not try something new? Why not question that? Why not? I mean, this is all within the
Mhm.
context of being like what I call like a nurturing human being, right? Like you can't go
Right.
and berate people and things like that, right?
Hmm.
Or like harm
Hmm.
others.
Right.
But
Right.
when we talk about taking risks, it's like why not? Why
Because
not? It's
Lindsay, what is a risk? What is that? What does that even mean?
ooh,
Because you're risking, what are you risking? Society not agreeing with you. That's really, at the end of the day, probably what we're risking.
yes. And at the end of the day,
Who gives a fuck?
yes.
So, but let's go back to
Yes.
let's go back to the myths of self-compassion.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that I have gained, and it's the beauty of the pandemic. I have gained
Mm.
love and self-compassion. I've gained and I never know, is it unabiding or abiding
I'm
love,
sure. I
right?
love
I
that.
mean, like solid.
Oh,
And I have found that when I love myself, I take care of myself. So that's where the myth falls apart, right? You're like, oh, well, if you give yourself grace, well, no. One, I love myself. Therefore, I believe I'm worthy of anything
mm,
I want. I don't go after things anymore because I don't think I'm enough. Because I need to get, one more of this or one more of that, and
mm.
to show that I'm enough. I know enough, and I can do enough, right? But I'm worthy as I am in this very moment. I don't need to do all of that. And this comes up for me a lot, especially like around Christmas and buying presents, and
Mm,
because I used
mhm.
to, and it's still within me, and I have to catch myself, um, that, well, they'll love me if I give them the right present. What? What?
Ooh, yeah.
Or, really, it's, will I want to show them how much I love them. And this gift is to do that. Like, wow. A retail thing is going to really show how much you love them. I mean, so when you think about it cognitively, you're like, but it's things that I witnessed growing up. Gift giving
Yes.
was a very, that's when my mom let down her armor and I saw it,
Mhm.
right? And so as a child, I equated the gift with the love.
Mm.
And not until I was adult, later adult, did I even get that that's the connection there. But anyway, so that I'm not pretending that stuff doesn't still come up. It does daily.
Oh, yeah.
I catch it faster.
Same.
That's the
Mhm.
difference, right? So
Yes.
if you love yourself, if I love my body for all that it can do, right? And so then I think I need to move this body so that I can keep moving it, so that I get to do these adventures, not, oh, because I need to lose 10 pounds because I'm not enough until then. People won't like me until then. They won't accept me until then. They might not hire me because I'm fat. I mean, all those things, right? And so loving yourself and giving yourself self-compassion erases that. And you
Oh my
love
gosh.
yourself to do the work.
Oh my gosh. And Kelly, like in you saying this, I think back to something that you said in the beginning about people that have these dreams and they want to get to these dreams and they're burning themselves out trying to get there because they don't
Mhm.
understand that element of self-compassion, the importance of it. And it strikes me as you're saying this, that how sad it is, because I deeply believe that every human, I don't know, there's like a 1 in 400 billion chance that we're born human and not like a plant or a bug or an animal or something like that, right? So it's like a really
Mhm.
small chance, right? And it saddens my heart because I believe everybody has something so special to give and a special perspective to give, that we're
Mhm.
so wrapped up in these societal myths that
Mhm.
so many people are burning out before they can get to their dreams and what they see for
Mhm.
their lives and
Mhm.
for what reason.
Mhm.
And and Kelly, I love so much what you're saying about self-compassion as well, because it is it is uncomfortable and it shouldn't be. And yeah, I did. gosh, it's so funny. And then how we ultimately like oftentimes can be the thief
Mhm,
of our own self.
mhm. Right,
Ugh,
right. And when you have that love for yourself, the interesting thing is that then you will so um like for instance, a mother who loves her child, or a parent who loves their child, loves them and doesn't want them to run out in the street,
mhm,
right? They
mhm.
don't want that for them. And so they will pull them back and maybe even spank them. It's the only time I ever spanked my children was when it was like so serious and you do it again and they
Yes,
do. Right? I mean,
yes.
and then they got it, right? So it's like that for yourself. So if you love yourself, you're gonna like do that evaluation, do the reflection, stop and like, is this really where you want to be? Kelly, I thought you said you wanted to do this, this, and this, right? And so um it's that Kristen Neff calls it the mama bear,
Yeah.
right? And so the mama bear says, no, you're not gonna eat sweets till the cows come home, whatever that means. Um, run out in the street and, whatever, right? Because I love you so much, I'm not going to allow that to happen. So if you love yourself, then you don't allow that to happen. It's a whole different, it's a whole different mindset. And it's a beautiful way to live.
It really is. And it is a way that I am so grateful. I can't believe that a half hours went up already. I'm like, what? We just started talking. But I am so grateful that I get to have you in my life. And it's been so
Me
beautiful to
too.
just to witness your growth. Cause I think we've known each other for maybe like 3 years now.
Hmm.
I
Oh, I
feel
think, yeah, four maybe.
four.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, 3 or 4 years.
Longer than a year. But it's been so beautiful to witness your growth into this deep place of self-compassion and then being able to share that with others. Like, oh, it's
Mm,
so beautiful. And like I do hope that whoever is watching this, that this message reaches you in a way that even if it feels too much to be like, okay, now I love myself or whatever, know that that first step is just to like just pause
mm,
and just
mm,
consider the possibility of what it could feel like to just be totally in a place of like being unshackled and knowing too that this journey
mm,
is not one that is meant to be taken alone, that there are, I mean, we are two
mhm,
health professionals that are on this journey still
mhm,
and will be our entire
mhm,
life, but know that also too the most amazing people come into your life as you
mhm,
begin to claim that self-compassion. And
mm.
Kelly, what is the best way if somebody wants to interact with your beautiful brilliant light and all of your knowing? What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, I'd like to say social media because that's easy, but I'm not always on there. Um, and I think my website, although it's I'm right now having it overhauled to
Ooh,
reflect more of this, but
yes.
so it's drbpresents.com, but it's DRB because Dr. Beischel presents.com, and or Kelly at drbpresents.com.
It's so awesome. And Kelly, I definitely plan on having you back because I would love to chat more too. And I think that you're such a brilliant thought leader in this space of inner child work. And then also, I think too, maybe next time we can start with one of your really yummy meditations just to get
I
ourselves in
love
that
that.
space. My friends,
I need to share one that I with you offline that I just did the other day, that I listened to and did, and whew, mind blowing. But yeah, yeah,
I love it. I love it. And
yeah.
thank you all so much for joining in on this happy, healthy half hour. And again, just be curious and
Mm,
be well and know that you are completely worthy of the life that you aspire to live. And
Mm,
it is possible. And people like us, we
mm.
can help you be there. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. And thank you, Kelly, Dr. B. Thank you so much for shining your light on all of us today. And then we will see you guys soon. Take care.
Lindsay, thank you.
Yes. Oh
Thank
my
you
gosh,
so much.
you're welcome.
This is anytime I can be with you, whether it's virtually or in person, my life is better. And I'm not kidding. You are a big ass bright light in my life.
Oh my
And
gosh.
anybody that gets to be in your light is a lucky
Oh
person.
my gosh. This
I'm
is,
not kidding.
I don't know if you guys have caught this, but this is like time 3 of this happy, healthy half hour where tears have come to my eyes. Thank you so much. I love you endlessly, Kelly. And
Love you
thank you
too.
guys so much for joining in. And we will see you guys very, very soon. Take care, y'all.